So you guys haven't seen Shane's level yet?
This is the first time,
I
man.
played it last night.
You played it last night?
I don't know if Shane has seen Shane's level.
I was there.
I think he just blindfolded himself.
All right, check out how genius this is, guys.
He should have just made the whole level just balls.
My wife saw this and said I can't talk to Shane.
When I got to this part of the stage with the giant painted-on electric Mario with the eye at the top, I was thinking that it looked like a platformer Armageddon, like a platformer gone completely and totally wrong.
It also looks a lot like I Am 8-Bit stuff right there, some of the art.
Yeah.
Inspired by Fallout.
This is definitely a world without game designers.
It gets better.
Does it get better as in it gets better, or does it get better and like, oh, it gets better?
Well, the second one definitely.
The enemies are two oranges placed together with a brain.
These are enemies that don't actually have any sort of threat.
Nope. Look at this. This is like just a
What?
bunch of
Okay,
junk.
did he do here? He just like,
I can actually explain
let's
this part.
pick the wood.
Okay, so explain this.
He was
I
building
don't
this
get it.
large wooden tower,
And now you have a chain.
and he accidentally blew it up, and just couldn't bring himself to sculpt it again, so he just left it.
I do admire Shane's ability to just dump random crap everywhere and have some like madness to it. Because when I'm like working on the stages, I kind of am meticulous about each step of the way, and like one segment can take like 2 hours because I just like want to make it perfect how I want it. Whereas like that's hard for me to just take a bunch of crap and put it together.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly do it.
It takes talent to do that.
What's kind of awesome is it actually is fun though. Like everybody sitting here has been laughing and like having a good time watching.
That's
this,
because it's
and
so dumb.
But it's so dumb. It's funny.
It's like you had an epileptic fit on the controller, and like that's what happened.
At least we know Shane won't be working in development anytime soon.
So,
That level's like the anti-resume.
仕事へ行きたくない学校なんかつまんないみんなで一緒にテレビゲーム遊びたい遊びたいどこでも行っても同じだみんなで歌を歌うんだみんなで一緒にテレビゲーム遊んだらどうだらワンアップショーを見ましょうワンアップショーで遊ぼうワンアップショーワオすごいワンアップショーやったよこれはワンアップショーです
So what do you guys think about the editor? Those of you who have used it.
It's definitely been fun for me because we had a preview build a little while back, and
Right.
Yeah.
like Shane and I we built a level for EGM, and we got a chance to mess around with it a lot. And it's so awesome to see all the added stuff that wasn't there in that build, like the lighting
so
effects,
funny.
which a lot of people aren't using. You notice Ryan's level, like he's changed the color correction.
Yeah.
And it
Kind of looks like the 1UP show.
yeah, but it's
I
really
wonder
cool
what-
that you can go subtle with the lighting, but you can also just go garish and like neon everywhere if you want to.
Yeah, in fact, in more than the lighting, I love having control of the cameras, and that's been the most addicting thing for me.
That's correct, because you care about that more because you're a film guy, and whereas someone else might not want to mess with the camera stuff at
Yeah.
all, and they'll focus on building some crazy bridge because they're more into like architecture.
Right,
Nice
totally.
teacup.
Yeah, the teacup is fills with score balls if you unlock that secret area up there.
Nice.
I'm really into building lots of like building mechanical devices and trying to make things interact with one another.
Yeah.
And that's where the most buggy parts are in the beta right now. But I can tell that once they're working, I'm going to be able to do exactly what I want to do. It's just not quite there yet.
I spent an hour last night trying to build a clock that works.
Oh wow.
Like adding gears together and then having arrows which rotate
Yeah.
around the gears affect the arrows. Yeah, and right now most of the levels they're kind of awful. They're very much like Shane's, and that's not an insult to the people because everyone's still learning it and they're just trying to see what they can get away with. But in even the worst levels, I'll find like one or two like little ideas. They might just be like one block placed somewhere in the level, which just work, and it's just interesting. And I think over time, people are going to find those good ideas and start incorporating them into their levels.
They're nice, plush Space Invader.
I stole this from someone else's stage.
It's a cool stage.
Nice
Yeah.
thing to steal though.
It's so easy to get into that you really can just do like Shane did and just start like going into a level and throwing stuff into it and seeing what happens, and your mind starts going, oh well, what if I put this together with this? What if I put this ramp over here and put a teeter-totter next to it and added a jet rocket over here and put it on a rubber band? And, you know, it's like just everything builds on it.
Well, it's like one of my favorite inspirational quotes is that creativity is the willingness to make mistakes, and art is knowing which mistakes to keep.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example of that is at the end of Shane's level, there's this huge ramp. And that wasn't built purposefully because I was there when he was designing it. And
Right.
Oh, nice.
It works, and that's honestly the best part of the level.
That is the best part of the level.
Yeah.
You remember first grade when you had like the paper and the macaroni and you glued macaroni all over the paper? It's sort of like that right now.
People are actually going to come around and learn a lot about game design, create a level, and then finesse it, and then really understand that all those games I've been trashing all these years, it's a little bit harder than I thought.
And
How patient do you think people are though? Do you think they're going to get frustrated and
Some
be like,
people are going to be
damn,
patient,
this
some people are going to be very
doesn't look the way I
impatient.
want it to?
Well, I think it depends on how you look at it. Like when I started, I was getting frustrated, and it was in that just taking simple gameplay ideas. In my case, it was a couple windmills, and using those windmills to get to basically open up the stage and have multiple paths, a lower path, an upper path, and secret areas. That once I had one section sort of built, then I was addicted. Then I was hooked. I stopped for a while, and I was a couple hours later, I was like, man, I really want to go work on my Little Big Planet stage again. And I thought, wow, that's great that I want to go work on my Little Big Planet stage again.
I think one of the key things about the whole editor, and it's obvious but it's important, is that in other creation games in the past, like in Graffiti Kingdom, which very few people played, they had an awesomely powerful, you can mess with your character, but you're still playing kind of a mediocre action RPG. In Blastworks, you can create awesome side-scrolling shooter aesthetically, but it's still a side-scrolling shooter. We've seen already in the beta that it doesn't just have to be a platformer. That's the basis for it, and that's something everyone can relate to because everyone's played Mario and everyone has a fundamental understanding of how that stuff works. But once you start messing around in the creator, you see that you don't have to just make that.
I don't know, kind of the first thing I had was I just did this UFO character, kind of I don't know, sort of a Pikmin plot where there's a UFO that crashed in this garden and now he needs to find his way out. And he follows your character, and your goal is to get him to the other side of the garden so that he can blast off safely into space.
You mean an escort mission with your first
Yes.
LD feeling?
I made an escort mission. And so the idea is that you would have to get him past various obstacles before he can make it there. And right now I'm just frustrated in that concept by the bugs that are in the beta version, which won't be there by the time the game comes out. The first idea that I had wasn't a platformer, it was an escort mission. And I'm hoping that that'll happen a lot. We're already seeing, mashups of other game concepts, all of Shadow of the Colossus, and that there's
a Wipeout HD stage.
Yeah.
Totally played this several times. It's awesome.
And it's fun because
pretty
the
sweet.
second day that the beta was out, I played this level and it didn't really work. You'd get decapitated after about 10 seconds of flying around. And it's interesting to see he's upgraded.
Oh yeah,
it
so he
and
keeps realigning the ramps.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, now it's in front of you. Now you're doing
Oh, whoa!
Yeah.
Bunch of beer bottles.
to celebrate your victory.
Woo! Yeah. Made it. That's almost as fun as the real Wipeout. Not quite.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to play the real Wipeout yet, so let me try this one.
You reviewed Wipeout, yeah?
Excuse me.
Dang. What'd you think?
I think it's great.
I think so too.
Wanna
But
play
that's
it?
no surprise.
Talk about it somewhere else. You're in my spot.
All right.
Somebody want to sit down and try it?
I think I'm gonna join you.
All right.
So what'd you give it?
I give it an A.
Very deserving of an A, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the best Wipeout ever in terms of the breadth of content that's in the
Right.
game, but it's also only $20, so
Yeah, and it's a lot of game for $20 and the amount of stuff that you can do.
The original ambition of the game changed as we developed it. So originally it was kind of, let's see what this looks like in in high definition. The amount of reworking that we had to do for HD was significant. You know what I mean? When we started Pure, we didn't have PSP kits. There weren't any. So we went with a PC solution just to get things up and running. What we found was that the tracks that we were doing for the PSP looks pretty good on the on the PC screen, And so that was the initial idea of like, let's see what we can do on PS3. And that's all we were going to do. We were just going to take the tracks and res them up. And then, well, we can't just do that. We'll have to put some high-res textures in there. And we did that. And then it started to snowball.
We got like one of the ships looking really, really nice. And suddenly the ship stood out against the track. And we thought the track looked really cool.
Yeah. This is the PSP version of Pfizer. And you can see here on the polygon count that we have 421 triangles, which is by current generation standards is pretty low. If we look in the wireframe, you can see more clearly how the actual ship was built, and it looks pretty good on the PSP screen. This is the Wipeout HD version, and this has over 22,000 polygons. I think the ships were the first thing that actually looked like Wipeout HD. The engine is fully modelled and textured. We've even put little kind of weapon stuff in there, like missiles. We've taken a lot more care on the underside. You can look in the cockpit, and there's a lot more detail in there now.
This ship that someone had spent a lot of time on putting together, we were like, well, the ship suddenly now looks way better than the rest, which looks good. So we've either got to degrade the ship or make everything else look better. And we took the longer approach of making everything else.
It was really exciting because it was there. All we were doing was plussing it. We were just plussing it up all the time.
Do you use the race assist?
No. I don't even know what it does.
Okay.
Because I've never had it turned on.
See, this is really the first Wipeout I've like played seriously or really cared about since Wipeout XL. I just haven't had a lot of interest in the series.
Yeah.
But then after reading your review and also like hearing you talk about the race assist, I was like, that sounds like it would be like fun and make it a little less frustrating.
I think the race assist is actually really cool.
But yeah,
like,
I really
a lot of
enjoy
people
it.
are going to say, oh, you're so weak sauce. It's not like getting the autopilot or anything like that. It's just that when you're playing without it on, you really tear them into the walls all the time. With race assist on, it actually almost feels like you're on a jet ski. Like you can go flying into a curve and you hit the air brakes at the right time and your back end swings out, but then you kind of like get right back on track, and it feels really cool to race like that.
It still is challenging, especially if you want to get gold medals and stuff, which I'm kind of anal about. It's like hard for me to advance until I've gotten it, but I think it just makes it a more accessible game.
That's really good to hear, in fact, because when I've been playing, it's been feeling like ridiculously hardcore because the graphics are ridiculous and because it's running at 60 frames and you're going so fast. It's like one of the most intense gaming experiences I can think of. It feels like war at Mach 3 or something like that.
Zone mode, where it's like having, it's every minute you're just like, wah!
My favorite thing about it is that now I can use the motion control to play. And since that preview build we had, they've really touched it up. They made it a lot less finicky, a lot less sensitive than it was.
So you play without racing assist and with motion control?
Fuck yeah, I do. and I'm.
This is like, I want to go for a race, but break both my legs first.
Yeah.
No, I mean it feels perfect. I don't ever want to play a Wipeout without motion control again. Like I don't know if I can go back to playing the PSP ones now.
The online play, gives it near endless replayability, and I think the online play is actually super good.
It's 60 frames, 8 people. Like I've barely seen any problems with slowdown or anything.
Yeah.
Initially, when I would go into lobbies, I was having trouble where people just wouldn't start the game, and I'd sit there forever, and then I'd go try another one. But once you actually get into tournaments, it's like really fun.
You're constantly getting, jostled by the competition. Plus, they're always racing for the weapon pads, right? But I found like the secret to success in races is like save the right weapons, you know, and hold on to them until the right moment.
In the past 3 or 4 Wipeout games, the importance of the speed pads has increased dramatically. They basically make you go just under as fast as you would when you use an actual speed boost.
And in single player, like in the time trials, you pretty much have to hit all of them in a lot of cases if you want to get gold.
It depends on what vehicle you're using, but yeah, there are times when I am hitting every speed pad. I'm not hitting the walls. I'm basically doing a perfect race around the track, and I'll still get silver because the amount of time that you need. And then all I do is switch to a slightly faster vehicle that controls a little bit less handily, and then all of a sudden, bam, I can knock it out.
Final lap.
Racing is only, and then tournaments only like a third of it now, which that I don't like as much because the races are by far my favorite.
Oh, really?
And because I like the weapons and.
If you really want to get good at it, that's what I mean. The time trials and the speed laps are the best way to get good at those tracks.
Right. For me, the most fun way to play the game is against opponents and is with weapons.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Not just by myself on a track, kind of honing myself, which I can tell that's how you enjoy it.
But it's not just that. Like, I like the races as well. And one of the best things about HD for me is that now, for the first time, the race modes run at the same frame rate as the other modes.
In the PSP game, you know, you get a pretty constant 30 frames per second when you're in the time trials and stuff.
So you learn to do the tracks with that frame rate, and then as soon as the race would start, your frame rate would be much lower, and now everything's solid 60. So when you're learning how to race a track on time trial mode, like the experience is going to be the same when you go to the races.
The one thing I wish that Wipeout HD had were tracks from the other games.
All the tracks are from the other games.
From Pure and Pulse.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, I want to see XL tracks in HD.
I would like to see that too.
Looking through the forums talking about HD, there's lots of like, oh, it'd be great if they did, you know, if they did this track, you know, in HD, that'd be fantastic. And people are starting to sort of want that, you know what I mean? I think it's a really cool thing.
I want more tracks. I'm willing to. I mean, they're gonna force us to pay for them if they release more.
I'd pay for them. I mean, it was so reasonable. It's not like it's a $50 game that you've got to pay $10 for everything. It's $20.
Yeah.
So they can charge me all they want. I don't care.
I really hope that they just release a ton of tracks.
Yeah.
And as long as the price for these download tracks is pretty low, I'm sure I'll buy them all.
Speaking of designing tracks, what would it take for you to put out some sort of perhaps limited track editor?
That's a definite no from our side. Track editors are often mentioned in conjunction with Wipeout. How well the track is designed and how well it plays with all the different ships across all the different speed classes and the various other settings that you can have in the game is fundamental to how good the experience is. And I think Colin in particular and the rest of the designers, they are very good at what they do for a reason, because they're just very good at getting that absolutely right.
I can remember on, I think it's the Amphitheum in Wipeout Pulse, which was not one of the tracks that I did, but I spent 3 days on one bend on that track, on one hairpin bend, just changing the camber of the track just by minute details, degrees of camber, changing the width.
I think if we just gave out a track editor, we'd get quantity rather than quality, and I think I'm sure there'd be some real gems out there amongst all of that. We just think it's not a part of Wipeout that we want to relinquish control over.
You know what I love about the Wipeout series is that it's always been good. XL is still my favorite just because of, at the time it came out it was so mind-blowing and stuff, but even Wipeout Fusion, which was probably the least popular, I don't know, but
I don't like it that much.
Everybody's got their favorite Wipeouts, but I think all the Wipeouts have been really good, and Wipeout HD is absolutely superb on all production levels.
I feel like if I had played everyone till now, I would be a little frustrated that it wasn't more of an evolution of it. But because I've had a bit of a break, this one's just everything I like about, or I remember liking about Wipeout is their
Missile.
First place.
What are you guys working on over there?
We made an art
We
gallery.
made an art gallery.
Yeah.
Photo collage kind of thing.
Check it out.
Photo cool.
All we did is take a whole bunch of pictures.
Aww. Did any of you guys like have a chance to look at any of the stages that other people are making with the beta?
Personally, that's what I did. Like, that's primarily what I did. I'm not really as interested in doing the creation stuff. I just kind of want to see what's out there and play other people's stages. I know you guys seem kind of down on them,
They're
but
so passive, Philip.
No, actually, I like the stages a lot.
Despite the fact that a lot of them are crap, like, a lot of them are also really good.
yeah, I mean, I'm just surprised. Like, the first night I got home with it, I played through a couple of the single player levels, and then I went online, and just every stage I played like 3 or 4 in a row, and I started playing with a buddy on my friends list. We played through a bunch of stages co-op, and we had a blast with all of them. Like, even ones that were, I could tell they were amateur design, we still had a lot of fun with them.
I hope that people don't get burned out. I really hope that, 3 or 4 months into this, that all the really good designers say, I'm really tired of this, I'm going to move on to the next thing, and then all these wonderful levels just disappear.
And you and I were talking a bit about it yesterday, Jason. I think as long as the 10% who stick with it and make the hardcore stages are making them for other people, even people like Phil who don't want to necessarily make their own, will have this almost literally infinite supply of stages that are fun, especially months down the line where it's like there's going to be tons of all varieties. Even if you don't want to make your own, it's like...
Think about it. If the game sells 1 million copies, only 10% of that is going to be 100,000, users making levels. So if everybody makes 3 levels, that's 300,000 levels. I mean, how long will it take you to play 300,000 stages?
Have you made any user-created stages that you really dug?
The one I really dug, it's probably cheesy and you're all going to laugh at it. I just like the Space Invader one.
That level is so creative, and it recreates. The bad thing is, like, the guy that created the scale is wrong, so you really can't see the enemies. So he had to put it like this weird angle, so you can't really see. But like, I was actually for one of the first levels, I copied over so that I could like go into edit mode, and to see all the wiring he had to run to line everything up, so that they're not only going back and forth but also moving up and down. And then at the end of it, it sets off yet another switch, which drops bombs, which kills you, which transports you to the end of the level. Like, it's really clever.
In fact, that Space Invader stage, Ryan actually stole one of those Space Invaders for his own stage. Well, he didn't really steal it because that's so cool how whoever creates stuff, they can give any of their objects as gifts.
No, totally.
But I agree with Phil. Like, it's more fun to play other people's levels. Like the
You're
creation.
so passive, Tina.
It's just so time consuming. You want to get into a game you want to play, and it's a lot of fun playing with user.
But there's sort of a middle ground, right? I mean,
Why
there's gonna be some
create
people.
life?
See, a middle ground where people take levels that have already been created and then fiddle with them and I don't want to ramp here. And so you might just do that stuff, like just tweak pieces of it or add a car to it or add whatever you want.
That's what I love about the game creation also is you can get people's items, right? So the F-Zero car, as soon as I played it, I actually popped that into a stage of my own and just made a ramp and just went
literally
over and over and over. Yeah, so much fun.
Lots of people making dinosaurs. Obviously, dinosaur fans out there.
Really fun.
My favorite one so far, well, I've had a bunch of favorites. I really like the Houston We Have a Problem stage, where you take off in a rocket and go to the moon
and win Jeff Green's face.
And win Jeff Green's face. I mean, this game is like Michel Gondry the game, but then I really like the Shadow of the Colossus stage that's out too. It takes it's really long. It goes through kind of like a bridge version of the whole game.
And it's got some of the same feelings of isolation, and the whole aesthetic is a little similar, and even the music he manages to put near the end sets the mood just right.
A+.
I think just a little bit I saw from the Patapon stage blew me away, like how much they were able to recreate the aesthetic of Patapon, even just the blank, with the hard silhouettes. It was really cool.
Doesn't it feel like some of the stages must have been built by, I don't know, Media Molecule people or something? It looked to me like you had to have put so much
from the closed beta that they had before, the smaller one. Yeah, I can believe that. So one cool one I saw so far is called Welcome to Pleasantville. It's just kind of like murder mystery where you're a cop and it's got a lot of dialogue and talking to people and trying to catch the serial killer. And there's this box that opens halfway through with flaming Sackboy bodies fall out, and it's ha ha ha, and it's really intense, and it's all foggy and spooky, and it's not that long, and there's not that much actual gameplay to it, but it's great, and I can see someone making like a long narrative-based thing.
And then the human body level, which kind of takes you on a rudimentary journey from the esophagus all the way out the anus. Well, I want to see this pinball level you were talking about, Garnet.
Oh yeah, the pinball level's awesome. It's like pachinko. It launches you up into the machine. I was trying to figure out how to do an elevator the other night, by the way. An elevator is a pain in the neck to try and get right. Because it has physics working, like, you have to stabilize the platform.
A month after the game comes out, there's gonna be, there's gonna be 200 elevators to choose from, and you can just drop those into your stage, and that'll make it that much easier to just be able to create things without thinking twice about like the smaller bits of it like that.
Right, exactly.
It really makes you think, though. I agree. Like, just seeing how everything works and then actually like taking the time to understand the physics.
The lighting looks so cool. It looks so realistic, for
totally works. It's
a real. Oh.
This ball thing that I'm in is a grab switch, and it affects all the different things in the game.
Exactly. Cool.
Oh, and it starts you right back.
That's
my
fucking genius.
That's
this level is
awesome.
totally crazy genius.
So yeah, I'm just really impressed by the things people are making, and I can't wait to see what people do when they have the full version of the game. Because whether people know it or not, the beta is very limited in terms of the objects and stuff that you have. So once the full version comes out, it's gonna be nuts.
Alright, well, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get some water.
Okay.
Corner cuts are in.
Nice.
You see the
Oh,
cover?
far out.
Well, I know you've
Resident
seen the
Evil
cover.
5.
Yeah, that's
Well, yeah, check that shit out.
That's awesome.
Let me check it.
The vaulting kick.
How big of a leap do you think that RE5 is from RE4, and why is that?
一番大きい変更はやはりオンラインコープがついたというところが何よりも大きいトピックじゃないかと思います。そのことによってゲームのプレイスタイルが今までの RE4 から大きく変わるというふうに思っています。
What are the differences between Chris and Sheva?
今回オンラインコープをベースにしているということで、あまり大きな違いは設けないようにということを非常に重要視しました。ただ、クリスとシェバではやはりその体格も違えば、性別も違うということで、各々その体を使ったアクションとかに関しては特徴が出るようにはしています。
Like Sheva has the flip kick.
そういう違いです。
I was playing Chris Redfield, you were playing Sheva, and we got to one of those points where it was co-op. Is like, okay, like put your hands down and like flip you over to the other building, and you're running around and I'm across the alley with a sniper rifle, and I've got like 9 bullets, but there's like 15 guys running after his character, right? So I'm like trying to do headshots, and I'm like, okay, keep running, run past the barrels, all right? You're past the barrels, boom! You totally do it cooperatively, and it's awesome. You are constantly getting swarmed by
I love
enemies.
that about it, actually. Like, I was afraid that 2 players would just make it way easier, like 2 human control players.
No.
But it's so fucking
You
hard.
when you. Were there any concerns that adding a partner would reduce the tension or suspense of playing by yourself?
一番最初に企画した時にはそういう心配もありました。ただ、実際に作っていく中でですね、やはりそのどちらか片一方を助けなければいけないというような要素というのは、これは今までのホラー映画の中にも非常によく見受けられたシチュエーションですし、それをうまく使って、ホラーゲームを作るということができるだろうという確信もありました。
But you think that because it's set in the daytime that it's not scary. And it's not scary in the same way because they're not cheap scares anymore. It's
Right.
not a dog jumping through a window when you don't know what's coming. It's like legitimate fear and tension.
It's like, oh, and 30 less plagas upped dudes are coming my way.
Exactly. And the co-op elements make it scary too, because now, you know, when you can interact with one another, you might have the green herb and I need the green herb because I'm gonna die, and you can give it to me.
The green hairspray.
But the game doesn't pause. You have to like run away from the zombies if you can find a spot to run away to, and then like do the pass while they're still coming at you.
We were in Japan. It was like, yo, Caesar, come on, help me! I am being stomped here. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, ah! And then it's all of a sudden, you know, like, Caesar saved my life. So funny though to see somebody just like totally revived because you gave him a little splash of that healing spray. Like that has got to be some good shit, you know. The beautiful thing is that, you know, if you aren't able to get online or if you don't have somebody who's playing live with you, you know, the CPU takes over for Sheva. So if your partner dies at any point during the game, that's basically mission over.
今回の RE5 はやはりパートナーと主人公が一緒にクリアしていくゲームというふうに考えてますんで、どちらか片一方が死ぬとゲームオーバーになると。
When you're playing single player, do you have the option to choose Chris or Sheva?
基本ホストになるのはクリスという形になってます。ですんで、プレイヤーはシングルプレイの場合は必ずクリスを選択するという形になってます。それはストーリーそのものが今回の RE5 はクリスのストーリーというふうに僕たち位置づけているので。
I don't think you can actually like tell the character, you know, where to go and what to do, but you know, it's scripted so that it's very intelligent and it feels very organic.
You can give them kind of Resident Evil Outbreak-ish commands where you like hit up and they're like, you know, come towards me, and they like, you know,
stick with me,
kind of stuff like that.
Go all offense, defense. Have you guys designed the levels to specifically accommodate the cooperative play? Like, have you made them so that they're only a certain length, like no level goes over 10 minutes, so that, you know, if you're playing online with somebody that, like, if somebody's got to go make dinner or go to school, you know, that it's not so much of a, I guess, a time sink?
非常に難しい質問なんですけど、オンラインがあるということはやはり重要な要素としてゲームデザインをしています。ただ、10分で終わって、すぐクッキングに行けるっていうのはちょっとそういうタイミングでのチャプターではないかな。もしね、10分で奥さんが用事があってですね、抜けなければいけないということがあった場合、料理しなくちゃいけないということがあった場合、そのままゲームプレイ中にオンラインをオフして AI に切り替えることができるので、多分優秀な AI なので、もし奥さんであれば奥さんが抜けたこと気づかないと思うので、そのままプレイできると思います。
The stages were more open. They weren't just, okay, go down a hallway, maybe go into a few other rooms here and there, but keep going down this hallway. Like, at least the few stages that we saw, it was, oh fuck, I gotta get away from these guys. Oh, well, there's a bunch of roofs that I can jump across, I can jump back down, I can run over here, blow up.
Because sometimes your partner will be across the stage and you'll be, help, you know, and where are you?
You hit the button and all of a sudden it's like your screen pops up an icon, shows where your partner is. You know, it's that way you know at all times where they are in relation to you in case you have to go help them or if the help button starts blinking.
It seemed most of the time like it was beneficial to stay together. Whenever they split apart, you get attacked and you get overwhelmed and you don't have your teammate there to save you.
In Resident Evil 4, I never had a problem taking down the chainsaw guy or, you know, any of the kind of like boss type characters, but every time I watch people play, and even in co-op, the chainsaw guy and the big axe guy are
with the bag head.
Yeah, they're really hard in this game. It's not that they're like ultra difficult, it's that there's zombies coming from anywhere and they can move pretty fast. So you think you're like, oh, finally I can go up and get that one strike that I need to take him down, and you get attacked from behind.
You've got to soften them up first, either by like walking them past the barrels and then shooting the barrels and then going and getting the uppercut so you really stagger him so he's softened up. Will you use the multiplayer co-op as a template for multiplayer modes in Resident Evil 5?
バイオシリーズはだいたいゲームをプレイし終わった後に何らかのおまけを皆さん期待されると思うので、何らかのおまけはモードとして搭載しようというふうに今検討してます。内容はまだ秘密です。
So, yeah, dude, go check out your magazine. They're in.
How about I just keep that one?
How about you go check one out?
Well, I want to play more Little Big Planet.
Yeah, let's finish this.
Well, like, let me ask you this then. Like, is there things that you think could make the editor something that you would want to use?
It's just, you know, a matter of like a willingness to put in the time and effort. And that's not and that's not something that I'm like ruling out. I mean, I definitely will when I have the time.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm just enjoying everything until I get like all of the objects and like.
I will say that I think, as we were saying earlier, you could totally just do that.
I mean, basically all I wanted to say too is like I can't talk about it now because I'm playing the final version, but like seeing the single player levels that they've created after, I'm guessing, multiple iterations by their whole team. I mean, relatively small, but still going through a lot of people. Like, just the visual polish alone, like, not only is it, like, ridiculous, but thinking about how this game will be when people have had it for a year and had it for as much time as Media Molecule has, like, iterating on the 300,000 or whatever we said, other levels, like, how crazy it can get.
It'll be interesting to see if indexes come out, like retro remake, or like, you know, game remake stages, or, you know, and then like shooter stages, race stages. It'll be interesting to see if there's good sorted indexes.
And I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like have been putting some thought into tagging the levels when you're done. How you have to choose like artistic or puzzle or whatever. Like, I tab through it until I find an appropriate one. Like, because it makes me want to instantly like give this person feedback. And I think actually, especially if I get the little like Sony keypad thing, I'll probably go through the trouble of like sending people messages, my thoughts on their level, like how they could tweak it or something.
No, absolutely.
Like, this totally encourages that sort of like communal working together as well. Or you just, I mean, eventually you'll be able to hop into their level and be like, here, I'll show you what I was talking about.
Yeah. The way that you can define anything as an object and then save it. And so you can take stuff from other people's levels, you can instance stuff in your own levels. But the thing that I'm kind of afraid is that we're going to run out of space really, really fast of objects you want to save. And then what do? You know, it's like once you...
I feel like space shouldn't be an issue. And it's weird because it is here. I mean, I just downloaded a bunch of the stages that I liked online, copied them to locally.
Saying you can't save your profile because you're out of space.
Exactly, and so I'm hoping that that's a limitation of the beta because my hard drive is not full. I mean, there's plenty of space on it, and if I'm not using... If I could tell my hard drive, like, prioritize Little Big Planet, it's all you can have all the rest of my free space, I would gladly do it.
You do get a lot of items, at least, I can say, like, in the final game, like playing the single player. You get a ton of stuff. So.
As someone who's spent a lot of time with the creator, having the PlayStation Eye camera, or I hope other cameras work, or I hope they start packing this thing in with Little Big Planet, because if you don't have the camera, you just can't customize the stages in the same way that you can. I mean, you really get like crazy with your customizations if you have a camera, because you could like make your own texture.
They need a PS3 bundle with Little Big Planet, iToy, and a headset.
Yep.
Like,
see,
done.
My thing is, I think starting next year, every PS3 should come pre-bundled with Little Big Planet. It should be like the pack-in for the system, because it showcases all the features, the online features.
I think just the single player, with the 3 levels we have so far,
just the demo stages,
just the demo stages become so different every time you just add another friend in, and then adding even more people allows you to do things like build little Sackboy like chains, you know, like one person hang from something, so one person hang from him, another person hang from him. Like, you can do an infinite amount of iterations on these things.
I mean, as cool as the beta stuff has been, the stuff you see in single player, like even single objects that have been created, like that's even more inspiring. It's like, wow, I can do this. I'm gonna spend as much time as it takes.
You get no sense that it is limited, even though it is. You still don't get that sense.
Right.